Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Civilian wife demands salute because of her husband's military rank. After that, I did what my mom told me to do and got revenge. And after that, am I the jerk for telling my coworkers that no, not everyone in the office can afford to buy a house? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get a salute. I knew I should have married an officer. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Civilian wife demands salute because of her husband's military rank. There are a handful of rules to saluting in the American military. The when, why, and how is drilled into you from boot camp until the day you leave. Even the order in which the salutes are rendered have meaning. When it comes to vehicles, there are helpful insignia and stickers to indicate if it's an officer, such as a colored sticker located on the front windshield. My base was small enough where it was everyone's job at some point to do sentry salute at the front gate, which had housing for military families. Sentry duty was pretty basic. You'd stop every vehicle, check IDs, and then wave them through. If they were an officer, you'd see it coming with those colored stickers, and after verifying the identity of the officer, you'd salute and send them on their way. One day while on duty, I approached a vehicle with an officer's sticker, and there was only the officer's wife driving in the vehicle. I returned her ID, wished her a nice day, and waved her through, pausing with a stern look. "Where's my salute, Petty Officer Citizen Alpha?" Now, Karen here was wife to a higher-ranking officer and has clearly fallen under the impression people are saluting her somehow along the way. Some of the junior enlisted might have even been saluting her as they're pretty easy to bully and pretty prone to mess-ups. I politely replied, "Ma'am, salutes are only rendered to commissioned officers," angrily pointing her chubby little fingers at the front of her windshield towards her husband's officer sticker. "I have a sticker, and you need to salute the sticker." Curtly, I continued, "I'm afraid that sticker is not an officer either." Frustrated, she pulled through and left my post. My cover guy, the guy keeping me safe with a big gun, and I watched her drive down the street and pull right into the administrative building with the top brass and huffed into the building as quickly as her soft body would take her. We exchange a look between us with wry smiles, knowing exactly where this is probably going. Later that day, we get a new official base-wide mandate. From here forward, all enlisted will salute vehicle stickers of officers regardless of who's in the vehicle. Roger that. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. It's worth noting that when you salute an officer as enlisted, you do it first, and you hold the salute until you are saluted in return, and they lower theirs. Only then do you lower your salute. It signals that you're saluting them and they're replying. Additionally, when saluting a group of officers, you generally direct your salute and greeting to the highest-ranking individual. Now, as far as I know, this stupid sticker salute order has no accommodation for how a 2004 Toyota Camry fits into the officer's pecking order. Additionally, if the car is unoccupied, it's not like that sticker is removed. After that order came through, we all began saluting stickers. Personally, I'd direct my salute to the sticker. I would also prioritize sticker salutes over officers. Let me tell you, walking through parking lots was a blast as I saluted empty cars on my way to wherever. More and more people saw me doing it, and more people started doing it. Not long after, the order was publicly rescinded, which hilariously had the balancing effect of never rendering a salute to anyone but a clearly known officer, cementing Karen never getting her unearned salutes. Have you ever been in the military? Or how about anyone you know? Please let us know. I know you were, Mr. Reddit. Legend has it you knew the best places to hide and sleep. I did what my mom told me to do and got revenge. So just some backstory here. My parents divorced when I was just in kindergarten, so no more than 6. My mom got full custody of us, and she suffered from mental illness. I believe she has borderline personality disorder, and she was also a typical narcissistic parent. Anyway, ever since the divorce, she would always tell us that it was not her fault we didn't have enough money for things and blame my dad. Example, if there was nothing to eat for breakfast and we complained like small kids do when we're hungry, she snapped, "It's your father's fault, so cry to him." I just learned to never complain and to do without, and spent my childhood taking care of her. My sister and I were trained from when I was about 8, my sister 10, to come right home from school and do our homework and clean the house and take care of ourselves. Don't ask mom to make dinner, make it yourself, and all of the chores so mom doesn't have to do anything. It sounds bizarre, but we thought that was normal, as well as being told on a daily basis that we were worthless. It got worse my senior year of high school. My grandma passed a few months before that summer, and my mom quit her job and blew through the money my grandma left her before the summer was over. This was close to $75,000 back in 2000. She refused to get another job and kept coming up with excuses not to work. I need a break. Get off my back. I hurt my leg, etc. While she was going out drinking with her friends and acting like a carefree teenager. So I spent my senior year working hard at school, at my part-time job after school, and pretty much taking care of an overgrown child who refused to work or help out. Anytime a utility got shut off or there was no food left in the house, she just griped, "You have a job? Why can't you pay it?" If I brought up the fact that my dad sent her child support, she would just complain that she had my sister's tuition, which I later learned was BS. She would flaunt that child support check and laugh and refer to it as "Mommy's paycheck." Flash forward to when I'm about to choose a college and my mom keeps belly aching about the costs and of course has zero saved in a college fund. I couldn't afford a private university since I was only offered a partial scholarship, so I decided to go to a reasonably priced and still highly regarded state university. My freshman year, I was pretty much able to swing the cost of tuition and room and board. I lived on campus. Since last year of high school, I filed my taxes and FAFSA as soon as my W-2s came in, so I had a decent amount of grants. During my first year of college, I almost became unable to receive financial aid for my second year of college. Why? My W-2s were mailed to my home address, and my mom, being the caring and supportive mother she was, shredded them and threw them in the trash. I found out because my sister was home that weekend and saw it. My mom denied, and when I came home for spring break and pressed her for it, she lied and said her friend had them. Her friend was a CPA. My sister called my mom out on this bluff by calling the friend who said she did not have any of our tax information. She was very concerned and told me and my sister to request duplicate W-2s and have them sent home, and she will have my mother send them over to me. My mom was angry that we had checked with her friend and called her out on her bluff, but true to her word, her friend did my taxes for me and my FAFSA. I had offered to pay her, or at least babysit for her, but she told me it was okay. I think she knew my mom was mentally unstable and felt sorry for me and my sister. At this point, I learned that my mom had not been helping out my sister at all with tuition, like she claimed, and my sister had mentioned it to my dad, who had called her out and demanded to know where the child support was going to. My mom insisted he wasn't paying her enough money, and that's why she couldn't help us out. During my second year of college, my W-2s were once again sent home, and my mom once again accidentally threw them in the trash. I had to request duplicate W-2s for my summer job, not just once, but twice, because she kept throwing them in the trash. I filed my tax return late that year, and as a result, my FAFSA was filed late, so I wasn't able to get the full amount I was receiving before. Anytime I complained to her about money or no food in the house, it was, "Complain to your father." Well, the summer before my third year, I was burned out on my mom's BS. I was working full-time for the summer and saving as much as I could, but she was refusing to help me out at all while I was home with food or anything. She was upset that instead of paying the phone bill so she could make long-distance calls to her online friends and spend all day in chat rooms, this was back when we had dial-up, I had the audacity to spend my hard-earned money on a cell phone and pay that bill myself. She told everyone I should just drop out because I wasn't applying myself hard enough. I was in the honors program, and she would play martyr with all her friends about, "It's so hard when you have kids in college and they eat all of your food and come to you for money." At the end of the summer, I had saved $1,000, but the school won't let me move into the dorm unless I paid 50% up front, which was about $10K. I didn't know what to do, as all summer the university had told me I was fine, and then on move-in day told me I couldn't move into the dorm. I called my dad in a panic, and he spoke to someone who agreed to give me 24 hours. I moved in, and the next day, my dad showed up first thing with a coffee and a donut for me and told me not to worry. He was going to fix this once and for all. He went from office to office on campus and co-signed a loan, which he later paid off for me. And then he paid the balance on my tuition for the loan didn't cover. He then took me out to lunch and told me the truth. My mom never helped my sister with her tuition. My sister had graduated the summer before my junior year of college. My sister later confirmed this, but was not surprised my mom had lied. My dad had co-signed loans to help my sister out, which he paid off later for her, and my sister was able to get a scholarship and do co-op to pay for her last 2 years. He also advised me that my mom was not so poorly off. As part of the divorce settlement, he had to pay the mortgage and property taxes on our house, and even though my sister was now out on her own, he was still paying her the same amount of child support of about $2,000 a month, despite the fact that I was living on campus for 75% of the year and my mom was not giving me a dime. Just to give you some clarification, my tuition and room and board before financial aid kicked in was $15,000 a year, so she could have easily helped me out with school since after financial aid kicked in, when I was able to get it, the balance was usually $6,000. I was hurt to think my mom was just living off my child support and constantly making me feel guilty for wanting anything or not being able to cater to her every whim. She would get upset that I wouldn't come home on the weekends to help her clean the house that I was not living in. I thought about how bad she made me feel growing up and made me feel worthless, when in fact, had it not been for me or my sister, she would have not had a roof over her head after the divorce. He asks me to grant him access to my account so he could prove my mom was not paying for college and that I was. He asked me how I would feel if he took care of college instead of paying my mom child support. Sounded good to me. He even told me I could spend my breaks at his house instead of my mom's. I called my mom and told her that my dad had taken care of the issue and she had no remorse. She told me it was my own fault for not planning my finances better and for blowing away my money all summer. I just played it dumb and said she was right, but pointed out I had done what she told me to and complained to my dad. A month later, my mom called me up, really upset. My dad had spoken with the courts and there was going to be a hearing in their divorce case. My dad had proven that my mom had not been paying for mine nor my sister's tuition for college, and that was the very reason my dad was obligated to pay child support till I was done in college. Since I was living on campus, it didn't make sense to pay her child support when I was not living at home most of the year, and she wasn't giving me a penny. My dad told the judge he would gladly pay for me to finish college, but he was not going to pay my mom any more child support, nor pay the mortgage on the house. If my mom didn't want to take over the mortgage, they could sell the house and I could live with him over my breaks. My mom was freaking out over this and calling me selfish. I just reminded her that my tuition must cost a lot more than what she got in child support since she was never able to help me with costs of school. She just kept laying guilt trips on me about how I was selfish because she didn't get to go to college right after high school and how she never got to have 4 carefree years of college. I pointed out to her that she had not worked since my grandma passed about 3 years ago, and that I was working and going to school at that time while she got to live a carefree life. She pretty much ripped me a new one at that point. She tried to get back at my dad by not paying utilities on the house to make it seem like she needed the money. She then told me that the electric and water were now shut off, so if I wanted to come home for winter break, I needed to help her out. She had moved in with her boyfriend at his condo. I just told her that I would miss her, but that I would just go to my dad's for winter break. She was upset and cried about how selfish I was for not wanting to come home for Christmas. Side note, the Christmas before, my present was throwing out many of my personal belongings. Why? My mom was upset at me that I didn't want to come home one weekend to help her clean because to get home I had to take 2 buses, 2 trains, spend $20 one way, and wait for her to hopefully remember to pick me up at the train station, which was a whole 20-minute drive for her after I had traveled for 4 to 5 hours because I had finals, and I told her I would help clean for the holidays once I came home for winter break. Her response? She took all of my things, threw them in boxes, and threw them out in the front lawn. Most of my things were destroyed by being left out in the rain and gave away most of them. I told my mom that I would come home and visit her over the winter break once she got the utilities turned on. I told my dad what was going on, and he said he and my stepmom and my half-brother and sister were thrilled I was going to stay with them for winter break, and he can get me a job in his office as well for winter break. He also called my mom and reminded her that child support had not stopped, and they were going to list the house in a few months. So what was this nonsense about the utilities being shut off? She was upset, but magically came up with the money to turn them back on. That spring, my dad officially, by the court, took over my college tuition, and he even made sure I got full financial aid since he had picked up my W-2s for me. My mom lost her child support and was told by the judge that she better cooperate with the sale of the house and keep up with the utility bills, etc., so it would sell. Her boyfriend moved in with her till the house sold, and she moved to another time zone. The real kicker? It was cheaper for my dad to pay college costs than to pay her child support. Am I the jerk for telling my coworkers that no, not everyone in the office can afford to buy a house? My coworkers are usually pretty good to work with. The average salary for them is around 100K plus. I'm their administrative assistant and I make about 32K. Anyway, some of the things they say are kind of weird. For example, this one woman was shocked that I had never had any of my clothes tailored before. I think they're just really caught up in their own reality, you know? Like, in their world, everyone is beautiful and skinny and rich, with purebred dogs and perfect white teeth. I was helping organize, and someone announced they finally bought their first house. The conversation continued on to them kind of being rude and saying things like, "I don't get why people think no one can afford to buy a house. It's not that hard." And someone else was like,
"Yeah, I can't imagine being in my 30s and still renting. I'd feel like such a failure."
and they all agreed. I don't usually get upset about the things they're talking about, but I finally had it and was like, "I'm 38 and rent. I don't think I'm a failure." One of them was like, "Oh, well, we weren't talking about you. It's just that all these people always go on and on about how it's impossible to save for a down payment." I was just like, "Yeah, it is pretty hard." It was obvious the whole atmosphere in the room changed, so I was like, "Anyway," and got up and left to the main office to get back to work. Later on, one of the other women in the office came up and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to offend you. It got kind of awkward in there." I said, yeah, it was pretty awkward listening to them talk about how they'd feel like a failure if they were in my shoes. She said that's not what she meant. She actually meant that it felt like I was trying to call attention to the wage gap, like it was their fault, and that if I wanted to better myself, they could help me figure out how to apply to schools and work my way up just like they did. I said a kind of half-hearted, "Thanks." It's been weird in the office since then. I know money is one of those no-no topics, but it's not like it's a secret that I only make what I make. Am I the jerk? Forgot to add, we don't have HR, and this really isn't an HR thing. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their coworkers? Please let us know. I'd tell those coworkers if it's not so hard to save up for a down payment, how about they pay for mine? Sir, you're talking to the manager of this department. It was the year 2014. I had gotten my dog trainer's license 2 years ago and soon found a job in a small but pretty popular dog training school. It was just a side job, but I loved it. Since I had collected a lot of experience with dogs even before I got my license, I got assigned the department for complicated dogs. This dog school was basically the concept that dog owners called in with their dog, described what exactly they were looking for, playgroup, obedience training, help with a problematic dog, and we assigned them to one of the different types of departments. Obviously, as the stereotype shows it, I had to put up with a lot of dangerous dogs like pit bulls, American Staffordshire Terriers, and others, just because their owners thought it would be cool to train their dog to guard their property and to have a smart, big dog. Obviously, most of them realized later they couldn't handle the dog and sought for help. Come the day. I was in the middle of a training. These specific dogs required their owners were away so I could work on the problems first without being disturbed, and had several dangerous dogs running around me because it was playtime. I don't remember their breeds exactly. I think it was 2 bloodhounds, a Staffordshire Terrier, and some bull terriers or pit bulls. The peaceful atmosphere gets disturbed by someone yelling something over the fence around the small field. One dog starts barking and gets completely furious, trying to storm to the fence, and sets the other dogs into angry mode too. I somehow managed to collect them and leash them to some extra posts so they can't do anything stupid. Already upset, because at the fence there's a sign, "If in use, don't disturb." And because whoever this was just put my own health at serious risk. I walk over to the fence and there's a guy standing and looking incredibly mad. The conversation went about like this. We've got the guy and we've got me. Me. "Hello, sir. How can I help you?" Guy.
"What are you doing? These are dangerous dogs. I will call the police."
Note, I'm a pretty small girl and look younger than I am. Maybe that's what set him off. Me. "Sir, what are you talking about?"
"They are dangerous dogs. You need to get out of there. You're not allowed in here."
Me. "Sir, I work here."
"Stop lying. You're too young and weak to work here."
Tries to open the gate. Thank God it was locked, exactly because of this. Me. "Sir, I really do work here. Please don't damage the gates. They are locked for a good reason."
"Liar. How did you even get in there?"
Me. Desperately waves keys in front of his face.
"You surely stole the keys. I will call the police."
Me, exhausted and worried because the pit bulls behind me are starting to make very angry noises. Fine, do it. But maybe go to the office behind you first if you got any complaints. He went to the office, and I finally could get back to the dogs, who at this point were completely losing it, and I had to be very careful. Sometime later, the guy comes back with one of my assistants, but in another group. He points at me and starts yelling something, to which I just sigh and put the dogs away. As I walk over, my assistant recognizes me, sighs, and turns to the guy, explaining that I'm basically his boss. Guy stares at me and starts saying how that's not possible because I'm weak and can't handle these big dangerous dogs, and how he's going to report to the police, and finally storms off. The result of this encounter was putting up another sign at the entrance of the property to direct any issues with the trainers to the office, and me having lost the training progress of 2 days. Great. I don't work there anymore, but I thought of maybe sharing this story. Just don't assume because someone doesn't look like they fit the job, it means they don't work there. Also, if they've got the keys. Speaking of dogs, do you have a dog? And if so, what kind? Please let us know. Mr. Reddit and I are thinking about getting one soon. What kind should we get? It's sad when kids have to explain the law to their parents. So this happened yesterday. I was just too tired when I got home to post it. I was working the customer service counter at work and had this woman, total non-Karen type, friendly, joking with me, and 3 teenagers, Teen 1, T2, and T3 come up. She wanted to buy some cigarettes, no problem. So she looks at her phone and reads it out. Again, not that uncommon. Canada recently changed the packaging requirements for every brand, so they all look identical now, so you need to know the exact name. After years and years of just having to worry about the color and brand, it's taken some getting used to. Even a year and a half later. It's a reflex. So, some people, especially people that only smoke occasionally, have the name of their preferred cigarette saved in their phones. Anyway, she lists off the brand, size, etc., all the info I need, and as I'm heading to the correct drawer, I hear the words that make me stop dead. I don't know. I don't smoke. Then this exchange ensues where she transformed into Karen before my very eyes. Me. I'm sorry. I can't sell them to you then. I would need to ID the person they are for. Karen. Are you serious? They're for my girlfriend. She's having a rough day. I said I would pick up some smokes for her. Me. I'm sorry, but once I ask for ID, I need to see it. And once I know they are not for the purchaser, I need to see the ID for the one they're for. Karen. Even if I go to another store? Me. I have no control over other stores. I just cannot legally sell them to you now that I know they're not for you. This is ridiculous. She's 36 years old. T1. Mom, it's the law. She can't sell them to you because she has no proof that they're not for someone under 19. For all she knows, you could be buying them for one of us. Karen, still complaining. Fine, we'll go somewhere else. It's still stupid. I couldn't hear all of what was being said after, but before they were out of earshot, he was still trying to explain that it was the law and I was only doing my job. Not 5 minutes later, a gentleman came in asking for the exact same ones. He was paying cash. I have zero doubts that he was her husband, but I can't prove that. He didn't say that they were for anyone else. He was polite, paid, and went on his way. Just for clarification, there are some brands that we sell a lot of, some that we hardly sell at all, and some that land somewhere in the middle. This was one of the middle brands, common enough that they could have plausibly been for the gentleman that bought them, but uncommon enough that I would have bet money that that was Karen's husband. Am I the jerk for no longer refilling and moving items my boyfriend leaves everywhere? I've come to realize that my boyfriend rarely moves items back to their original homes. Yes, I've talked to him about this and we haven't resolved anything, hence the post here. So, my boyfriend will not put anything back to where it should be. This includes kitchen utensils. I'm not OCD, I just think that cutting knives should go near the cutting board, toilet paper, Q-tips, and most recently, the cat food feeding scoop. Specifically, he feeds the cats in the morning and leaves the scoop by whoever he feeds last. They're all fed in separate rooms. We have a fast eater. I feed the cats at night. We have to wander around until I find it, and then I put it back with the cat food, which is where he goes in the morning. I started replacing it to exactly where he leaves it now, and he's getting annoyed it's not with the food in the morning. Toilet paper. He will never replace it, so I started bringing my own roll into the bathroom, and if the bathroom roll is empty, I don't replace it. This goes for the Q-tips as well. He won't replace them in the bathroom. I've not replaced them in a month, and it seems like he's just stopped using them. Finally, when we go grocery shopping, He just shoves all the bags into the fridge slash freezer slash pantry for me to empty later. I've stopped emptying the bags and organizing the fridge and just remove my item from a bag and leave it as it was. This probably upsets him the most, since last time he put a pack of chicken in the pantry that I didn't notice. I really didn't notice it though. That's what he said to me. I assumed he at least checked the bags to be going in their general locations. Anyway, we've been fighting about this, and today he got upset the cat food scoop was not with the food and in the kitchen where he left it. Am I the jerk for trying to make a point that I can't constantly be fixing everything? Edit. Oh my goodness, I can't believe all these comments and awards. Thank you guys. I probably won't respond to you, but I'm reading all the comments now. I can clearly see that we have some stuff to work on, and I see comments on my old posts, and I will address it accordingly. I honestly think I'm pretty lax about this because my mom treated me very similarly, and I just got used to doing everything myself. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Why not have a cat scoop in both rooms? As for everything else, you might want to look for a training school to send him to. Entitled mother and kid try to steal my cat from my backyard. No joke, this literally happened and my cats are now locked inside, on mobile. To make a long story short, my cats were lead trained to stay in the backyard, so I can let them outside when they're energized. I check on them every 5 minutes and they have stacked outdoor furniture they love to hide in. One cat is very skittish around strangers and she'll hide, while the other will only bolt if he's wary or energized. Both cats have a "I'm tolerating you" relationship, so when I looked to check on them, I was startled to see them both in a corner together. Then I saw the kid and her mother cornering them. I was pretty upset and rushed out and started yelling at them, scaring the mom and her kid pretty badly. Of course, when my cat saw the open door, they rushed to it and the mom tried to grab them. The female cat lashed out and clawed her hand good, making the entitled mom yell and recoil, letting my cats escape inside. The entitled kid started crying because the pretty kitties got away, and she wanted a kitty cat now. Entitled mom yelled at me that she was going to report me for assault, while I yelled from my back door that I was already on the phone with 911, reporting her for trespassing and attempted cat theft. She screamed at me in rage before grabbing her wailing kid and storming out of my yard. I had actually dialed 911 and the dispatcher heard the exchange and assured me that if the entitled mom did try to report me, it wouldn't work because she was in the wrong. About 10 minutes later, cops pulled up and I gave my statement, descriptions, and pointed which direction entitled mom and entitled kid had fled. The cops wrote it all down before one told me that I wasn't the first to call from this area. Apparently, the entitled mom had been attempting to lure out other pets her kid wanted. The cops were just trying to figure out who she was. No one, including me, recognized her or her kid, and she was getting more brazen. My yard was actually the first they had trespassed into. My cats are now being locked indoors for the foreseeable future, and I've warned a few of my neighbors who I know have pets about this in case they didn't know. This entire situation is honestly just horrible, as there have already been incidents involving getting pets, but stealing one from their loving family is a low all on its own. So, it's the school's fault your 9-year-old failed the 3rd grade? Okay then. Here is a tale of 2 boys, my 6-year-old son versus my 9-year-old nephew. Normally, I hate it when adults compare one kid to another, especially when it concerns someone else's kid versus theirs. But given the circumstances of this story, and frankly my mother-in-law favoring my nephew over my son, which she'll never admit but does this all the time, I feel like making an exception to one of my scruples. Anyways, both my son and my nephew are in the same school district, but go to different elementary schools. Due to lockdown, the district gave parents one of 2 choices for the fall of 2020, full-time virtual or temporary virtual. Full-time virtual involved staying at home the whole year, meeting the teacher on a half-hour Zoom call, and then completes various lessons and assignments weekly at the family's convenience. Temporary virtual was a set of Zoom calls to simulate being at school without being in person, which was temporary until the superintendent approved in-person learning again. In-person learning has been back since mid-January of 2021, by the way, but more on that later. My 6-year-old was in temporary virtual because my wife and I really wanted him to be back in person schooling as soon as the school district allowed it. In the meantime, my son was on Zoom lessons with the online class, while my wife acted as a teacher's assistant, making sure that my son was doing the schoolwork he was supposed to do, pay attention, and learn what he was able to on Zoom. I helped with a few things after I was done with work and gave her the break she deserved. I definitely am glad my wife played this role so well. Our son did a great job with the online learning, but he is very happy to be back into in-person learning. My nephew is a different story. My brother-in-law's baby mama signed up my nephew for full-time virtual learning. I think she thought it would be easier because of the appeal of doing the lessons at any time of the day. I think that jerk just wanted to sleep in, frankly, because the last 2 years prior she had him miss 70 days of school each year, and part of the time that was why. To be fair, neither one of them really give a crap about the concept of a good education. My brother-in-law did not even lift a finger concerning his own son's education and would rather play Street Fighter online or hang out at his friend's house, while my nephew's mother only did certain things when she felt like it or when the school compelled her. Right before Christmas break, my wife and I heard from my mother-in-law that our nephew was literally kicked out of full-time virtual and would be put on the temporary virtual schooling program until in-person would be in effect, because he wasn't doing any of the schoolwork. I'm pretty sure my nephew will be repeating the 3rd grade because of that. My mother-in-law and my nephew's mom, of course, blame the school district for failing him. Yep, totally the school's fault your kid didn't do any of the schoolwork. Stop what you're doing right now and come watch this video next. You will love it. And please support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us record any special video that you'd like us to, just come over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.